Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were talking off the mic a little bit that you got to coach one of my former players in Landon Wood a couple years ago, and love Landon, great kid, and I know that he loved his experience at Johnson County. And you guys, for a season that was cut really short, you guys were really good and kept the ball rolling, and you actually took over this off season, and so. I want to start with, what was that transition like? So you were the assistant for, I think it said 18 years at Johnson, and then you took over. And so tell us a little bit about how that transition was for you. And I'm sure you are the most prepared guy for the job, knowing the program and knowing how good of a coach you are. But I'd love to hear just what it was like to transition from the assistant to the head coach.
Well, I mean, the transition was really easy when I've been at Johnson County for 17 years. A lot of times there's not a whole lot of coaches that stay put in one place. But I've been at Johnson County for 17 years, was the recruiting coordinator and the pitching coach. And then once Hall of Famer Kent Shelley retired, I was lucky enough to get selected by the committee to take over. So, I mean, I think it was just a seamless transition considering I'd been there so long and recruited all the players, and it was just a really good fit and a really easy transition, especially with COVID. Our kids had to deal with a lot of unique situations and a lot of unknowns. So, I was just really happy to give the players that constant during the COVID, and was just kind of happy to get the job and hopefully keep things rolling.
When you mentioned that you guys were getting ready for a playoff run right now, and so we can start right there. I usually start in the fall, but at the time that most everybody's listening right now, they are going into playoff season, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're doing to really prepare those guys, or what you've done up to this point to be able to say, okay, now we're doing everything that we can up to point A right before the playoffs. And just give us some different advice on how to prepare for a playoff run.
Well, I mean, the tough thing about preparing for a playoff run is it starts day one on August 10th. You got to prepare your guys from day one, all fall, all winter, and then all spring for the playoffs. We tell our guys that you just can't flip the switch during playoffs and think it's all going to click or it's all going to come together. So again, it's a year process, and if we as coaches do our jobs, then our kids are prepared for almost any situation and adversity and ready for the playoffs. I would say my only tip for even playing in playoffs or coaching in playoffs is just keeping the guys loose. A lot of times I see guys that fold in the playoffs as they're too nervous, they're too stressed out, they're trying to do too much. So we're really focused on staying loose, having fun, and essentially just letting our guys do what they've done all year. You don't have to change anything different just because it's a win or go home situation. If you prepared all year long and your guys are ready and they're going out there and playing carefree baseball and having fun and relaxed, then playoffs should take care of itself.
I love that. And again, that's something that's really intriguing to me too, because you hear a lot of coaches say we want to, the further the season goes along, the more that we want to try and pull back the reins a little bit, let them be themselves, and really, get to this point. And so let's rewind back to, day one, whenever you guys got them on campus. And I don't know what that looked like this year. I'm just talking about a typical year, but I'm sure it was sometime in August. And so tell us a little bit about really the summer leading into it, and then we can talk about the players getting on campus. But tell us a little bit about how you prepared for really that first meeting or that first week of practice. And again, you've been there for a long time. You're a great coach. You've been around the program. You know all of the kids, but it is a transition from assistant to head coach, I'm assuming. And so what was the summer like for you, and how did you go into week one feeling like, okay, I feel really prepared for this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the preparedness really comes from, I guess, my old boss and Kent Shelley. I mean, I can't thank him enough, but over the 17 years, he really entrusted me with a lot of the parts of the program. So he allowed me to take charge in a lot of those things, and kind of learn by failures and successes, and then his advice as well. So I mean, I don't really think I could have been any more prepared to take over the program, just because he's really kind of a hands-off coach, where he allowed his assistants to have their kind of specialties and take charge of their specialties. And over the years, he let me dabble in a lot of the head coaching stuff as far as scheduling and on-campus recruiting visits and travel plans and stuff like that. So, and I can't thank Coach Shelley enough for everything that he did over the 17 years, and especially getting ready for me for this moment. So, you know, I think that's where it made it seamless. Now, the tough thing was all the COVID stuff. You know, last year we were 20-3, really had things rocking and rolling, and we were just starting conference. I think we were in our third weekend of conference before the season got boomed because of COVID. So that was probably the craziest part is you're looking from March to July. Not only have I not been named the head coach, but yet I'm trying to keep all of our recruits, all of our current players, still with the program, still excited about the program, still motivated about the program. And then finally it was official in July. And once it was official, then it was kind of time to get everything organized and ready to go. And, you know, and even then, as organized and planned out as we were, the fall was really unique, as in every day wasn't guaranteed, you know, and that's what we really learned about COVID. So even though we had these plans and these strategies and these team bonding things, we didn't know within 24 hours if we'd be able to do them, if we had to change, if we had to stay flexible. So that was probably the most difficult part of the transition, which every program had to deal with it. But I think we really had to deal with it because, again, you know, we were transitioning, new head coach, things like that. So that was probably the hardest part, is just all the unknowns in the fall of what we could do, what we couldn't do, wearing the mask, having small groups. So we really had to change, really had to stay flexible. And you know, our kids did a great job. Luckily, we had a lot of returners, and I think most of our lineup came back. So that was a huge help because they already knew kind of what our expectations were. They already kind of knew what being a Cavalier was. So that's what really made it easy, was just having all those returners to help lead the freshmen and help us with the complete transition of the new coaching staff.
No doubt. And you know, that's a unique experience that I think only junior colleges have, is from the fact of you lose half of your team every year. And so I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts on how to build a culture, because you guys have one, but how have you continued to build one throughout, or at least losing half of your team almost every single year, and continue that every year. And it seems like you have to hit the ground running from day one in the fall.
Oh, I mean, it's tough, you know, and I still remember, even in my interview process, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but my answer was the hardest job in all of sports is the recruiting coordinator for a junior college, you know, especially in baseball, because you're losing 20 guys a year. You've got to add 20 guys a year. And it's one of the toughest jobs in the business. You know, it's a daily thing. It's an hourly thing. It's a minute thing, and it never stops. So, you know, that's the trickiest part. And then again, like you said, as far as building the culture, we've had really good success over the last 18 years at Johnson County. You know, I think over the last 14 years, we've been ranked in the top 20 for 13 of those 14. The last 6 years, we've been ranked in the top 10. Most importantly to us is our academics, and we've had over a 3.0 for 34 out of the last 35 semesters. We got a 3.29 last year. So our kids not only get after it on the baseball field, but they also get after it in the classroom. And, you know, we're very fortunate to have a great school, to have great academics, great facilities. So we try to bring in the best high character kids we can. And once we do that, you know, it really makes things easy, because you've got those sophomores, you've got the high character freshmen that want to get better, that want to work. They see our success in the past, and it's a whole lot easier to get buy-in when you're winning 40 games a year, ranked in the top 10. You know, we've got usually about 15 guys per season moving on to the Division I level. So when you have all these successes, you know, throughout the program and just about all categories that as coaches you focus on, it's really easy to get buy-in. And, you know, with that tradition, with that culture, with that winning attitude really makes our job, I wouldn't say easy, but much easier for kids to come in day one and their ears are open, their mouths are kind of zipped, and they're just ready to soak it in, get better, and they want to reach their goal to the Division I level. And luckily, most of our starters get that opportunity. So, they buy in a lot quicker and a lot sooner probably at other places, which really helps our job out.
I love that. And, they're not in the easiest conference either, which again goes into week one. You guys got to be ready to go. So tell us a little bit about, I don't know. I think most of our listeners are pretty familiar with, JUCO life a little bit, but you've got, and it may have changed this year. I really don't know, but for the most part, an unlimited schedule in the fall that you could practice 7 days a week if you wanted. But take us through, once you got the entire team on campus, what did that fall look like? Again, it's such a different year with COVID, and I'm sure we could put an asterisk by that because there's some things that you will change for next year. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do we run a fall efficiently? What are the things that need to be done? When do they need to do them? And just kind of walk us through that, and we can go wherever.
I won't really change it up to where COVID's at. I'll talk about a typical fall.
Sure.
And that's one of the beauties of junior college baseball and why it's good for it's good for player development because we don't have really all the rules of the 4-year school program. So we get to play 20 games in the fall against outside competition. We don't really have any hourly restrictions. So, we can go out as a team and practice for 2-3 hours, go lift for an hour, and then have some individual stuff after as well. It's a grind, and I hate to say grind because baseball's fun and baseball's a sport. But it's a grind and you got to be a certain type of kid to get after the JUCO life, just because again, of all the hours on the baseball field, all the hours in the classroom, and it's a lot different than the 4-year atmosphere where they can only bring in so many kids. They only have so many hours a week. So the development at the JUCO level is just outstanding. Because again, we just don't have the time restrictions. We can work one-on-one. We can bring the whole team in, and guys can just get after it and get better each day. And most of the kids we get, again, they're wanting to hit, they're wanting to field. They're eager and they're willing to get better. So it's just a lot better of an environment for individual development. So just because of the hours and the time constraints and stuff like that. Once the fall is over, we kind of go into a winter session where we really attack the weight room. I would say our number one strength is our strength. So we really get after the weight room quite a bit. November through February, we're in there for 5 days a week, hour and a half. In the fall, we're in there 3 to 4 times a week. So we get after the weight room. We really believe that's kind of the great separator is if we can be stronger than our opponents, the ball's going to go further, the ball's going to go faster. Etc. So we really attack the weight room on a year-round basis, and we attack practices and individual development on a daily basis. So, that's part of the JUCO grind. And if you're wanting to get better, JUCO could be the option for you. We don't get a whole lot of Division I ready kids. Most kids that go to the junior college level have some kind of a flaw, whether it's speed, strength, velocity, command. And you go to the JUCO level, we have more time to work on those weaknesses and hopefully turn them into strengths within 2 years.
No doubt. And I think, your track record speaks for itself because you guys have done that quite a bit. And so with that being said, what does a Cavalier look like? And so what I mean is I'm sure you guys have a mold of, hey, these are our standards. These are our expectations. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I guess a Cavalier mold is we kind of have 3 pillars in our program that we really believe in, and we focus on the development. So the 3 pillars of our program is we're trying to develop the person, we're trying to develop the player, and then we're trying to develop the student. So we talk about those 3 pillars every single day. It's core to our beliefs, core to our values, and it's core to what we want our kids to buy into and believe and get better at. So not only do we focus on baseball, which obviously all the kids want to play baseball, they want to be better players. So that makes our hardest task is making better people, making sure they're doing the right things when nobody's looking, making sure they're high character kids, making sure they're polite. We're just trying to develop better people, and then the third one is the student. Now, not everybody likes going to class, but obviously it's important for college. So we're trying to develop the student, give them study tips, sending them to our resource centers to get extra help, and pretty much going above and beyond with the books as well. So when we look at kids that maybe already have those characters, so it makes things easier for us. But we preach that every day, So I would say really we're just looking for high character, hardworking players, and if we can get those high character, hardworking players into our system, it makes our job a whole lot easier. We don't want to be babysitters. If we have to walk a kid to class or peek into a classroom to see if a kid's there, I don't really want you in our program. We want kids that understand that they're student athletes, and also for them too, because baseball scholarships are so low at the Division I level, they're only getting 11.7 scholarships for 35 people. So you're sitting on a 33% at best. And we try to make our kids understand that you could get, the other 67% if you get after the grades and you get that 3.5 or that 4.0. So that's the kids we're looking for. And again, just hardworking. And we're also big believers too. I don't really know what the saying is, but you are kind of who you hang around with, or you are, you're exactly alike, or you're as guilty as the 5 people you hang around most, whatever all those sayings are, as far as pick your friends wisely. If we bring a group of 35 kids in and 30 plus of those kids are high character kids, those other 4 or 5 guys are going to jump in and pretty much jump on the train, follow the lead, and become better people right away. If you bring in 30, I don't know what the word for it is, but 30 low character kids, and they're doing the wrong things all the time, then you're going to get the other 5 to 10 good kids to buy into them. So we really try to surround all of our athletes with just high character people that understand grades are important. And once you can do that, they all buy in pretty easy. So that's really helped us out too, is taking the time and recruiting. When I was the recruiting coordinator, we'd always call 3 people. We'd always call their summer coach, their high school coach, and then we try to reach out to a teacher, athletic director, or something like that, just to get character checks. And, I passed that on to Coach Yeager, who's kind of taken over the reins as the recruiting coordinator this year. And, doing that extra work in the recruiting process really helps you out long-term and really makes things easy to coach when you get the right kids on campus.
No, that's wonderful. And I've gotten the chance to meet Michael and talk with him a little bit. He's a stud. Lucky to have that guy.
Yeah, I mean, we got really lucky. I mean, obviously, I've been there for 17 years. Now the head coach on the 18th year. Our main hitting coach and defensive coordinator is David Canary. He's been at the college for 15 years. Coach Yeager's been at the college for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. Our pitching coach, Wally Neller, he's on his 3rd year. And all those guys played at Johnson County. So, I mean, they understand. I mean, I coach Wally, I coach Yeager, so they understand what we're about. And it's really easy for them to jump in and know the tradition and know how we teach it and know how we do things.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'd love to hear this too from a pitching perspective. I know that I'm sure you still dabble in it, and that's if you had to coach a position, I feel like that would be your specialty. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on from the pitching side in the fall. What did you feel like you guys did really well getting them prepared for the season? Just spitball with that with me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, pitching's my baby. So even though Coach Neller does a great job, heck, I hope everything that he learned came from me while he was at Johnson County. So it's an easy transition. And not only do I believe in him, but I trust him. But it's still my baby. So I probably overstep sometimes. He probably doesn't like working for me because I always give my 2 cents in. But he does a great job. He's a younger guy. He gets it being a younger guy where he's trying to learn. He's trying to develop. So, he's always asking questions. He's always saying, hey, what do you think about doing this today? So he's just been awesome with the pitchers. And, the greatest thing nowadays with pitching is I'm more old school. We do medicine ball drills. We're working on body shifts and body weight, learning how the body moves and trying to, get all the kinetic chain stuff. But I'm more old school. So, the greatest thing that we're trying to do nowadays with pitching is learn all this technology. and they've got the Rhapsody and the TrackMan and the spin rates and the tilt axes and all that stuff. So that's probably our greatest thing that we've been working on is trying to learn all that new technology and incorporate it into our program. You know, I mean, you see on Twitter, you see on these podcasts, you got the old school versus the new school, and there's old school guys that won't learn from the new school. And then there's new school guys that don't take what the old school does. So, you know, I like to think we're kind of getting there anyway of the best of both worlds. Is, you know, that's what these kids are growing up on. Is they come in and tell me their spin rate or their curveball's this spin rate, and you know, I just look at them like, well, I don't really know what that means, but why don't you throw a curveball and I'll tell you if a hitter's going to swing it, miss at it or not. So we're trying to buy in a little bit more with this technology because that's what all these kids are using. You know, and really the biggest thing these days is arm health. You know, is we're trying to long toss, we're trying to lift, we're trying to keep these guys healthy, and you know, our greatest task is keeping pitchers healthy these days through how much throwing they're doing and what they're doing in high school. And I would say that's probably our greatest thing is not only development of pitchers, but you know, we're trying to keep them healthy on a year-round basis. And if they're hurt, they're not getting scholarships and they're not helping us out. So, you know, that's probably a main focus too with a lot of the development we do is a lot of arm care stuff.
Awesome. Well, I want to walk it back just for a second with the old school versus new school. Like you said, I think that's something that if you're a mix of both, then then that means one, you know how to coach, which is I think the connotation of old school guys. You know how to get through to players and you know the game of baseball, but you're also willing to incorporate some new things, which I think is really, really cool. So with that, so you're transitioning again, you get 50% new guys every single year. I'd love to hear, and this has kind of been, you know, my lived experiences in JUCO life. You don't really have to do a ton of team building activities because you're in a very small town, you're on campus, and all you do is play baseball, and you're pretty much like most of the kids on campus are in athletics, right? And so that in itself is a bonding experience through shared experience. But is there anything that you feel that you guys do together that you're like, guys, the coaches that are listening, guys, you've got to try this? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I mean, we're a little bit different. I don't know if you've actually seen our place. We've got 36,000 students at our school.
Wow.
So we're actually larger than KU and K-State. I mean, our campus is a D1 type campus. We've got Division I type academics. We've got Division I type facilities. But we have all the benefits of junior college baseball as far as playing right away, developing more with the time frames that we have and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more unique in our place as far as team bonding goes, because I don't know that I call them distractions, but there's a whole lot more to do. You can drive a block in any directions at around Johnson County and get to a movie theater, any type of restaurant you can think of. I mean, there's golf courses. We're 20 minutes from Kauffman Stadium, so our guys go to Royals games. We're 20 minutes from Arrowhead Stadium, so our guys are going to Chiefs games. And, you know, I would just say all the time that we spend in baseball, though, I mean, they have to bond just because of, again, all of our development time that we take. So even though there are distractions at our place, they're on the field for 3-4 hours a day, in the weight room for an hour a day. So they're around each other quite a bit. That was one of the main things when I took over. I was going to try to do a lot more team bonding activities and a lot more community events and getting out in the community a little bit. But COVID kind of, I guess, ruined a lot of that stuff because obviously you didn't want to get into large groups. So we've got some ideas up our sleeves that we're hoping to try for next year. But really the biggest thing that we've always done that our guys seem to bond with is we've partnered with Johnson County 3 and 2, which is one of the largest youth organizations in Kansas City. And our guys umpire in the fall. So our guys claim they don't like it, but, man, they talk about that 24 hours a day about this crazy parent, this crazy play, this crazy coach, how much they got yelled at. This ball they call the strike they call the ball. So that's probably our biggest team bonding thing, and we were able to do some of that this fall, luckily. But that's probably our biggest team bonding thing is we mix them up. So they're always umpiring with somebody different. So that gets them on a field for 2 hours with somebody they don't know early on in the fall. So they have to talk. They sit in between games. That's 30 minutes. They're talking to each other. So that's probably our biggest team bonding thing that we were able to do this year. Again, we have a lot more plans, hopefully, that we'll put into place next year and get a lot more involved with the community. Hopefully, COVID continues to die down a little bit. But that's probably the biggest thing we do. And, again, we just try to get guys all pulling the rope in the same direction. And once we get that buy-in, they bond over working hard. The weight room is an awesome place to bond when somebody's, lifting a new PR max in the squat, the bench, the box jumps, or how high they're doing a box jump. And all our guys are huddling around them and cheering and yelling and screaming. In the fall, we do like a lot of, we do a lot of competition in the fall. So we're trying to get our guys to compete in everything they do, and when we can get our guys to compete, they're rooting on each other, they're cheering on each other. And I think that's really, really bonding when they're competing on the field, in the classroom, and in the weight room. So.
No doubt. I love that. So when I feel like, and this is kind of a college coach thing, the transition from December from the end of classes to January may be the most nerve-wracking time of your life. But then once you get them back on campus in January, if you want to, you can talk about that transition from off season to preseason, or we can just jump right into preseason, whichever one you prefer. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on both or one of the other.
I mean, you hit it on the head. The scariest time for any coach is the month of December. All college kids have a month after finals, before the second semester start, that they're at home. So that's the scariest time, because you don't know what they're doing, how hard they're working, if they're working, and you have to put a lot of trust into those players. And, we tell them all the time, and maybe this is mean or maybe this is too true, but, we tell our guys all the time, if you go home and do nothing, you're going to come back day one, and we're getting after it. We're not easing you into it, because we sent you home with a month plan. We sent you home with a daily plan of what to do in the weight room, when to hit, when to long toss, when to throw bullpens, how many pitches. And if you don't follow that plan to a T, you're going to get hurt. And when you get hurt that first week back, it's not because of what we're doing, but it's because of what you should have been doing the last month. So I don't know if you want to call that a scare tactic, but that's probably our biggest one that we use is here's a day by day of things you need to do. And there's some flexibility in it to where if you can't lift this day, that's fine, but get so many lifts in a week. If you can't hit because you can't find a gym, that's fine, but hit so many times a week. So there's a lot of flexibility built in it. But again, we use the scare tactic of day one, you come back, we're throwing live to hitters right out of the chutes, and you're throwing 40 pitches live to hitters. If you hadn't thrown a bullpen in a month, you're going to get hurt. And if you get hurt, next guy's up, and call that a scare tactic, call that mean. But it's really worked over 17 years. So we're going to keep rolling with it. And, the other thing we do with technology is pretty nice. We tell our guys, when they're throwing a bullpen, they got to film 5 pitches. When they're hitting in the cages, they got to film, 5 swings. So that way, when we kind of know what they're doing, because they're supposed to be sending us footage. So that makes it pretty nice too. And all we got to do is we get a text message from, so-and-so, there's 5 pitches, and it also allows us to say, hey, looking good, keep it up. Or here's a flaw that I see. Let's try to get this fixed for your next bullpen. Here are some drills to fix it. Or same thing with the hitters. Here's a flaw with your mechanics. Here's a drill to fix it. Let's see if you can get better next week. So now I would say that the scariest time, we use the scare tactic of don't get hurt when you come back. And the second one of, send us videos of what you're doing. So we see the swing, we see the development, we see if they're doing things the right way. And then that's worked for 17 years. So we're probably going to keep rolling with it. So, and this year was especially difficult with that stuff too, because now our administration did a great job, but we shut down for a week in the fall. We had to shut down 2 weeks early at the end of fall because of COVID stuff. And, again, when we do that, if our guys aren't quarantined, they still couldn't use our facilities. So they had to go work on their own. So, it all goes back to you recruit the right types of kids. Coaching is fairly easy. You recruit the wrong kinds of kids, you'll pull your hair out. I know I don't have any hair, but you'll pull your hair out because, you can't trust them. And it doesn't make coaching fun, and you get the right kids and it's pretty fun. So going back on college baseball, what's the most important thing to me is recruiting. You recruit the right types of kids and it's easy, and you don't recruit the right types of kids and it's a 24/7 job.
No doubt. Well, let's go ahead and dig into that a little bit. So you mentioned calling 3 people from prospective student athletes that you want, but let's say you're just out watching a baseball game. What are some different things that you're looking for as far as, hey, these are our kind of guys that we want to sign?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting's difficult, and over the years I've really learned that to be a good recruiter, you have to be a good networker, and again, we've got a great coaching staff and we love each other like brothers. We fight like brothers. We make up like brothers. And it's funny because, we laugh all the time, and we'll go see the same kid, one day, then the next coach, hey, let's go look at him this week. And we come back and, baseball's a weird game because one coach can see a kid and, he can't play. Another guy can see a kid and, man, he'd be our best player. And so it's difficult, plus you could go to a game or a tournament, and I've gone to tournaments before and sat there for a week straight. And if I'm following one kid or another kid, he could walk 4 times in one game. So I just drove 6 hours to go watch this one kid, and he went 0 for 0 with 4 walks. And, of course you're banging your head against the wall, or it gets rained out, or, there's a lot of variables in baseball. And so to me, to be a good recruiter, and what we look for is you got to have a good network, and luckily over the last 17 years, I feel like we've done things the right way at Johnson County. So I feel like we've got a good network of people. And, a lot of guys that we sign, it's just, maybe one of our buddies or one of our networks giving us a call and saying, hey, coach, I got a guy for you. And, and us watching a little video, maybe trying to go watch them play. But good recruiters, to be a good recruiter, you better have a good network because, again, your eyes, and you don't have that crystal ball, but, I may go see a kid take 10 swings or 5 at bats. And, I really rely on his coach that's seen him for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and thousands of swings, and, what his character is, how hard he works and stuff like that. And, so again, we really rely on our network and our network of people to give us good intel. And, once you send us one good player and you call us again for a second player, if that first one worked out, man, we'll sign that second one sight unseen because, you know what you're doing.
No, really good. And get your cup of coffee, because what is it in recruiting? Always be closing. Like, I love that. That's really, really good.
Yep.
So with that, sorry, I got sidetracked with the recruiting talk a little bit, but let's go ahead and whenever. So you guys have about a month before you really get into the season, or less, and then whenever you guys do, because again, your Jayhawk League is really tough, and so trying to balance, stress and rest, and hitting on this and that, and so. I'd love to hear your thoughts about, what the balance is during season as far as development and winning games and rest and stress, and when we do this, we need to take this day off, and just kind of tell us a little bit about how that balance has been for you, because I'm going through it as a future head coach. Hopefully, we'll see, but I'm thinking about it from an assistant standpoint, so I don't get to see all the ins and outs of all the things that head coaches do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on just how to balance all of those different things while, still trying to win games, develop kids, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer in what I call the roller coaster method. So we're a pretty intense program. We get after the development. Almost everything we do is 100% full speed. So we really kind of follow the roller coaster method, whether it's in the weight room or on the field or in conditioning. And if we're going to crush you on a Monday, Tuesday is going to be extremely light for that rebuild. So your muscles, regrow, your muscles get better, they get healthier, they recover. Then if Tuesday is kind of a lighter recovery day, you better be ready to go on Wednesday because, we're sprinting, we're getting after it. We're long tossing, we're throwing live, whatever it might be. Then again, we bounce back on Thursday, and that's a light day. So really big on the roller coaster method is we're going to crush you one day, but we also realize that next day we've got to recover. You can't just keep crushing these kids day in and day out because something's going to break down, whether it's a ligament, UCL, labrum, hamstring. Something's going to pop if you just go. So, again, we're really, really big believers in that roller coaster method. We also kind of start a little bit slow in the fall. So when our guys report, we take the first 2 weeks, we put everybody on a long toss program. We really build up the conditioning. We really build up the weights. So that first 2 weeks is really light. And then each day is just a little bit more. It's a lot of chalk talk. It's a lot of fundamentals. It's a lot of basic mechanics. It's a lot of base running techniques. So a lot of our coaching gets done within the first 2 weeks. So it's a lot of the coaching, and it's a lot of the buildup. And then after those 2 weeks are over, we have 2 months where we get after it for fall ball. So we're down there with the team. We're playing games. We're long tossing. We're doing team practices, and it's full go. And then after that fall season's over, around November 1st, then we break it out to really strength building. So now we're doing individual stuff, and we're hitting the weight room 5 days a week. Then once that's over, they go home for Christmas break, and we give them a Christmas program again, which outlines each day what they're trying to accomplish: hitting, throwing, conditioning, weightlifting. And then they come back, and in about January 10th, we've got less than a month before the season's going. So we're full go, throwing live to hitters indoors, getting outside when we can, and getting after it, getting ready for the season. And then, of course, once you're in season, you're just trying to maintain. So you're lifting 2 to 3 times a week, more body weight type stuff, just so you don't lose anything that you gained. We're doing a lot less with the long toss, a lot less with the live stuff. And we're just, making sure that we're 100% for every game day. And then, like you said, as far as the conference goes, the Jayhawks, one of the toughest conferences around. And the amount of teams in the Jayhawk League is just astounding. I mean, there's 19 JUCOs in Kansas, and 16 of them make the playoffs. So, we're sitting in there. We're lucky enough to have a good year. So we host the first round starting tomorrow, but we've got 4 teams coming in. We've got Fort Scott, we've got Garden City, and we've got Butler. And man, any one of those teams can win. And I talk to our coaches at our school all the time. Everybody's like, well, how come you've only been to Grand Junction 2 or 3 times? It's a tough road. You've got to be the best team out of Kansas to go to the World Series, and there's 18 teams. And of those 18 teams, 9 of them have probably been ranked at some point in time, and 9 of them can win it. So you're getting into a double elimination bracket, and you got to go through all 18 teams, and all 18 teams are tough, and 9 of them could hang at the World Series. So it's a tough road, and that means it's a tough fall and it's a tough winter. And again, you got to prepare for tomorrow, August 10th. If you're preparing for tomorrow today, well, you missed the boat, and your guys aren't going to be ready. So that's what makes it a grind, is going through this playoff system and having to go through these teams during the season, and then having to play them again in the playoffs. And every day is a challenge, and every day you got to get up ready to compete, or you're going to get left in the dust.
So walk us through just a typical practice, and I'd love to hear. We don't have any practice plans on us, but I'd love to just hear your thoughts on just some different things that you guys do. It could be unique to you, or just things that you have found efficient, things that your players like. But just from a practicality standpoint, I'd love to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do everything full speed. Obviously, with the roller coaster method, you can't do that every day. But we compete a lot. We do a lot of live situation stuff. So whether we're trying to hit off of a machine at 92 miles an hour, or, our guys are kind of the biggest drill that we have that we love from a defensive purpose is what we call the T. We call it the T defense. So we set up 2 T's. Our guys are hitting off of the tee to our defenders, and they're alternating. So one time they hit a ball to first base, our pitcher's covering first base at full speed. Then the next tee guy's hitting it to shortstop. He's throwing it to first. Next guy's hitting a tee ball to third base. They're turning a double play at second base. So it's really high paced. And I don't know if you've ever seen a college kid hit a ball off a tee before, but they can get it moving. And our fielders are pretty skeptical when they do it. But, man, if you can feel the ground ball off of a tee, you can field anything. So a lot of our practices, we try to overdo it. We try to make it more challenging than a game. So when they get in a game, it's a lot slower, and that's the biggest adjustment that we've seen out of high school kids is once you get to college, the game is faster. The kids are bigger. The kids are stronger. That ground ball is now a lightning bolt. That line drive is much faster than anything you've ever seen. So, again, when we're trying to make things tougher than the game in practice, so the game is easier, and again, we do that with machines with our hitters. We'll dial up that hack attack machine. We'll dial up that big league slider, and our guys got to compete and hit it, and if they can put that in play, then they see a JUCO pitcher, it looks like a beach ball coming in. If our defenders, if they can feel that ball getting scorched off the tee, they're going to be able to – a routine ball is going to look like a slow beach ball coming at them as well. So, that's a lot of things that we do. And, again, that defensive tee drill we do probably 2 to 3 times a week. Hitting off a machine we try to do 2 to 3 times a week, just, again, because it's not the 40-mile-an-hour feel-good BP. You're getting after it. You better be on time, and you better barrel that thing up, or that ball's not leaving the cage. So, again, when we do practice stuff, we try to make things more difficult than a game. We're always trying to compete, so our guys, again, are staying focused, staying locked in. We try to do things at low reps because, again, if you have an at-bat, you better be ready to go on that first pitch. You don't get 10, 15 swings to figure it out. Pitchers, we try to throw, again, aim small, miss small. So we're trying to hit ball. We get a tee in the bullpen. We put a ball on it, and our pitchers compete to try to hit that ball off that tee. So, again, our biggest practice thing is we make things more difficult than a game is. So when we get to a game, it's a whole lot easier.
I love that. And you're slowing the game down, which I think is an awesome thing. You're adding in some competition, which I'm sure the players love. And, with that, let's say, we're to the season here that we're in. We've talked about postseason a little bit. You guys are really successful. You get the outcomes that you want, and then the season ends. And then after that, then it's that transition from you got, again, half of your team leaving, and then you got half of your team coming back. I've always been curious on how other coaches do, after season wrap-ups. And I don't know what it would be like for you, especially with the guys that are going and moving on to, 4-year universities. But I'd love to hear, what your plan is for the guys that are coming back. I'm sure you want to know where they're playing in the summer, what their plans are with that, and getting contact information. But just kind of walk us through what your process is after the season's over, and then your I don't want to say postseason, but your after season wrap-ups.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We have exit meetings with all of our guys. Now, the guys leaving the program, those are pretty easy, because most of them have signed. It's more of a thank you, good luck kind of thing. Let us know if you need anything. And hopefully we created that bond where they still stay in touch. So the guys that aren't coming back are really easy. The guys that are coming back, there's some good exit meetings, there's some bad exit meetings, but, we're as honest and as truthful as we can possibly be. I can probably be called a lot of things over my 17 years of coaching, but a liar's not one of them. So we're up front with each one of our kids on what their role is going to be coming back, where they stand, where they sit, what we thought they could do better, what we liked, those kind of things. So, and then like you said, we're making sure they have a plan. We're pretty flexible on what their plan is, but they've got to have a plan. If they don't, then we get together and we come up with one, whether it's play summer baseball, whether it's kind of rest, lift weights, long toss in the summer. I mean, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to be individualized on what they need to do in the summer. I mean, our guys who are starting every day, they probably need a break, so we'll tell them to take off all of June, obviously continue to lift, but don't pick up a baseball in June, and then July, start hitting, continue lifting, start throwing, get ready for August. Then there's guys that maybe didn't get the innings that they want, so they didn't develop as much as they needed to in the spring. We tell those guys, you got to go play. We don't care where you play. If you've got a hometown league, let us know. If you want the coolest experience, let us know. And then, we get emails on a daily basis from summer programs, and, we'll send them up north. We'll send them. We've got 2 kids going to play in Orange County because they wanted the coolest experience possible, which I don't know how much cooler you can get than going to Orange County, California and playing baseball in the summer. So they're pretty excited. We sent guys to San Diego before, to Canada. So it's really individualized, but, we just sit them down and make sure they've got a plan, and more importantly, make sure their plan is going to help them in the future. And again, whether that's rest, whether that's getting at bats, whether that's getting innings, whether that's, okay, you got to go home and work and make money or take summer school. We're really flexible. And again, each kid's different. Each plan is individualized, and, it's talked from the coaching staff to the player to the parents if needed. And we want what's best for our kids, and we give them the input necessary. And again, most kids trust us, so most kids kind of follow what we want, but we also design it what they need, whether it's working, school, going home, or getting at bats.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I've got some quick hitters here just for us to get to know you a little bit better and what you're learning, what you're doing. So the first one is, what is something that you've learned lately that you're really excited about?
Well, I think we kind of hit on this a little bit, but it's the technology stuff. I mean, I'm old school. I see all the new age people debunking the towel drill for pitchers. Man, that's my favorite drill. And we've done the towel drill for 17 years, and we've had good pitching staffs, and it gets pitchers to where I want them to be. So, we do the towel drill all the time. And, I know a lot of people hate that thing and debunk it and say it's terrible, but our greatest challenge is learning all this new technology. And, again, I don't buy into it all, but you have to. If you don't get better, you don't improve, you don't learn this technology, you're going to get left behind. So, I don't know how much we're going to incorporate it into our program, or how many Rhapsody or TrackMan machines we're going to buy in the future. But you better know what it is. You better know why kids are doing it. You better know what it means, because that's how these kids relate, and if you can't speak technology terms and you can't speak spin rate, these new age kids are going to leave you in the dust. And, they're not just going to want to do the towel drill on a daily basis. They're going to want some technology, and they're going to want some backing on why they do things. Kids are smarter, again, kind of going to the new age, old school stuff. I don't really think kids have changed today. I think coaching has changed on how you have to treat these kids, and kids are smarter, and unfortunately, whether right or wrong, kids want to know the why, and if you can give them the why, again, they continue to buy in, they continue to do what you ask, and they continue to move forward. Where when I first started 18 years ago, it was, my way or the highway. And if you didn't want to do the towel drill, or you didn't want to do this drill, or you didn't like the way I taught, then, go find somewhere else to play. But, nowadays, man, you gotta know the kids. You got to know their beliefs, their technology knowledge, their mechanical knowledge. And, you've got to know the personalities, and each kid's different. Some kids you can yell at to motivate them. Some kids you have to explain everything to motivate them. Some kids you have to kind of be gentle with, because they're not motivated by fear or yelling. So, I don't think kids have really changed. They've just gotten a whole lot smarter. And the only thing that's really changed is coaches have to adapt, and as old school as I claim I am, you have to adapt, you have to learn, you have to improve, and you have to understand that this new age stuff, or our kids aren't going to want to come to your school. They're not going to believe in you. They're not going to trust you. And So that's probably the greatest thing I'm trying to learn is all these new terms in pitching and all this new technology in pitching. And I try to read books. I try to look at Rhapsody charts and numbers and spin rates. And, I'm trying to dig in the best I can. And, I already have a bunch of meetings set up with some of these local pitching coach guys that have all this technology, and I'm meeting with them all summer long, and I'm hoping they walk me through it, and I'm hoping I can pick up a thing or two from each one of them and bring it back to our program and make us better.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, I guess that leads right into my next question, which is, what's something that you've changed your mind about, either lately or in the past?
Oh, I mean, again, I hate to hit the repeat button, but I've really changed my mind with technology. Again, I used to be like, throw me a curveball and I'll tell you if it's a good curveball or not. I don't need Rhapsody to tell me how much movement you have. I can tell you right now whether it's good or not. So, but again, I mean, these kids speak technology. So, you've got to adapt or die, I think's the saying. So, again, what am I trying to change? I'm trying to get some new age in us and some new age in our coaching staff so we can communicate with these kids better and obviously develop them better. So whatever new age stuff we can pick up is what we're going to pick up and bring back to our program and make kids better and continue to develop kids in the best way we can.
Speaking of your kids, what is their favorite drill, or just a drill that we can steal from you and use tomorrow that that the players will love?
Oh, I mean, again, that T drill for defense, our kids love that. I mean, those hitters come in there and, man, they try to blast the hardest ball they possibly can. And, man, when they hit one off somebody's kneecap or somebody's foot because they hit it so hard, man, they're all laughing. They're all enjoying it. Probably the defender who wore it off the foot isn't laughing too much. But, I mean, they get after that thing. And, we tell people all the time there's no such thing as a bad fungo. So sometimes they'll hit choppers. Sometimes they'll kind of miss the barrel a little bit, so it'll be weakly. But sometimes they'll hit the barrel. And, man, these kids just love it. I mean, you think about hitting off a tee. No kid likes just really hitting off a tee. What fun is that? But when you're able to scorch it right at a defender, and those kids kind of have fun with it. And again, if you can field that ball as a defender in our program, you can field any ball. So it makes us better. Our hitters like it again because they get chuckles out of trying to go after somebody's kneecap or foot. And our defenders sure as heck learn quickly how to field it, because once you take one off the foot, you're not going to want to take another one. So, man, I would say that's one of the biggest drills that we do. And we do it all the time, and it's intense. It's high speed, and it's high reps. And again, it's fast paced. So that game's slower. So I would recommend that drill to everybody because, man, our defense gets better. The first week we do it, it's the worst thing you'll ever see. Nobody really fields any balls, but, man, as the fall goes on, they figure out really quickly how to use their glove and not their foot. So it makes us better. The kids like it, and again, it kind of makes the mundane of hitting off a tee kind of fun when those guys are seeking kneecaps in people's shoes.
That's hilarious. Well, I've got one more before you go, and it's just the resource question. Is there any books or resources that have shaped you as a coach, changed your coaching career, that you would recommend for the coaches listening?
Yeah, for sure. Our old head coach, Kent Shelley, coached baseball for 32 years. He's on the board of directors. He was the president of the ABCA committee. So really that ABCA organization is really big for all of our coaches. We go to all the conventions on a yearly basis. We listen to all the speakers. We watch all the videos, and there's not and I don't work for the ABCA, so I'm not getting commission here, but that ABCA membership is huge for any coach because they have the resources to get better. Again, you go to they'll have a convention every year, usually in January, where there's 10,000 coaches there. There's some of the best coaches in the world coming and speaking about mechanics, about practice plans, about leadership, about ethics, you name it, they talk about it. And it's one of the greatest days of any coach's development just because of all the resources they have. And then again, they've got a website. Once you're the member, you can log in. You can see all these videos, rewatch these videos. They'll do things on Twitter all the time. They have all these special sessions all the time as well. So, man, I'm not really a big book reader, but I love watching the videos. I love going to that convention and kind of going back to what we talked about in minute one in this podcast is talk about building a network. You know, as a young coach, my greatest advice to anybody just starting out is you've got to meet, you've got to greet, you've got to socialize with any coach you can socialize with, because baseball is kind of a small world. And when you're at this ABCA convention, not only do you learn, but it's the greatest networking place you can go to. So I would just say greatest advice to any young coach is get to that ABCA convention, shake as many hands as you can, pass out as many business cards as you can, because you never know when somebody's going to be looking for an assistant coach or a head coach or has a player in high school that they want to send you. So I've met a lot of good friends at that convention. To this day, I talk to on a daily basis. I reach out to them, not only for if they're college coaches, not only for advice or help or strategies or drills, but also the high school and the academies out there, you know, networking out to them. And hey, if you got a good player, we're always willing to listen. So give us a call. So I would say that ABCA is one of the best organizations in the world for any coach. And I would highly recommend it to everybody.
I love it. Well, Eric, I want to be the first to tell you thank you so much for just really opening up everything that you guys are doing and sharing so much of what you guys are doing at JCC. And so I'd love to hear, or I'd love to just mute myself, give you the opportunity to talk to any coaches that are listening. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the guys listening or gals listening before you go?
No, I mean, I would just encourage any coach out there to never think you know it all. You know, when I was 21, 22 years old, I thought I was ready for a head coaching job. I thought I knew it all. And, the kids really suffered, when you're kind of short-minded and not willing to get better. And as long as you're open-minded and you'll listen to other people's opinions, whether you agree with it or not, and you're willing to learn, your kids get better, and again, anybody can reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to kind of tell you other drills or mechanics or things that we work on or do. And, that's one of the greatest ways to get better as a coach. And once you're better as a coach, you pass it on to the players, which in turn is kind of our ultimate goal, is we want to make the best players possible, the best people possible. And whether it's my way or something I stole from somebody else, just always stay open-minded. And then for any player listening, and man, you got to work hard. You got to never give up. Unfortunately, with COVID, COVID is going to end some really good high school baseball careers, because college teams are now log jammed. College teams have huge rosters. Division I's are trickling down. The draft got smaller. So now all these guys that used to get drafted are now with Power Fives. All these Power Five school players that used to be good Power Five school players are now trickling down to mid-majors. All these mid-major players are now trickling down to JUCO. So, the competition in college baseball is at its all-time greatest. Whether good or bad, not even going to get into that, but the competition level is just insane. So if you're a high school baseball player, being a junior or a senior, you better get after it. And even after you sign or you commit to that 4-year school or that JUCO, your job's not done yet. You better have the greatest summer of your life and the hardest working summer of your life, because there's going to be 3 or 4 guys at your position, and the competition is just going to be off the charts. So that would be my greatest advice for anybody in high school, is never stop working and be willing to compete, because college baseball for the next 2 or 3 years is going to be off the charts talent-wise at every level. Roster sizes are going to be bigger at every level. So better work.